Hi students, welcome to CMIS 4140 week 12. Kind of got a rundown updates for you for basically the rest of the semester. Consolidated a few things here and kind of have our plan to get us through demo day and then also through the end of the semester. So one thing that I definitely want to talk about is I have decided to open up the final for your revision to be able to. You can choose to finish in either Unreal Engine 5 or you can choose to finish in Blender. It'll be your decision for your project. Whichever one you think you can refine and push the most, you're more than welcome to do. So, that being said, it's totally your option. Um, I I realize, we're getting really close to the end and I'm going to take you through a lot of Unreal Engine stuff and I want to show it to you. And I think you should at least at a minimum try to move over at least one of your environments. But like I said, for your renders for your final, it'll be up to, your choice in terms of whether you want to render in Blender with cycles or whether you want to render in Unreal Engine. Um, so we're going to dive headfirst into UE today. I assume all of you have at least a little bit of experience in Unreal Engine. Everybody here, have you guys all used Unreal Engine? Is anybody not? It's okay if you haven't, um, but I assume you probably all have at this phase. Um, So taking that assumption, we'll move right on forwards with that. So you don't have any deliverables that you have to do this week, but you definitely are encouraged to kind of work along and start moving things over and just kind of practice the pipeline to make sure you have that locked down. Next week, we're going to really focus in on lighting and sequencer. So I will take you through and teach you a lot of the camera features and sequencer, how to bring your characters in and get your animations rigged up, and how you can basically um, actually light at a really high level and take advantage of path tracing inside of Unreal Engine. So Unreal, as you guys know, is very easy to work with, but it has some nuances. And if a lot of times many people don't even know that it actually has a ray trace renderer built in that you can call on that works like cycles in Blender. So it definitely adds some kind of new nuances and features to it. So we'll take a deep dive there, cover a lot of techniques. I will go on ahead and share the videos with you for the landscape workflow and the foliage lesson. Um, we're not going to have enough time to get that in, but I have it pre-recorded, so I'm going to give it to you. There's no required assignment with it, but if you have an outdoor scene, you're probably definitely going to need that. So I'll try to give that to you next week for week 13 as well, but I have it listed as, an optional thing for you to work on over Thanksgiving break. So when you return from Thanksgiving break, so basically we have today, then we have next week, then you guys are gone for Thanksgiving break, and when you get back is basically pretty much our last week of classes and demo day. So you guys don't really have any real requirements that you have to have for demo day, but if you are able to complete your video rendering by then and you're able to get it to me, like say by like that Wednesday, then I'm going to try to put those things together, or maybe even Thursday I might can get them in.
Huh?
But I want to put those together as a video reel so that we
Kiss
can showcase it on one of the screens at the
Oh, which
CMII
be would
during demo
ask
day.
we
So
start that ain't morning. Just send you and your
Al-
siblings.
Allow your mics open. Um, so basically, if you got have you guys ever been to demo day? Are any of you guys presenting in demo day? Do you have projects in other classes that you're showcasing?
I have a game
Uh,
us is working on that's going to be presented on demo day.
Awesome. I had no students in my other class that were presenting, I don't think. I asked and they said there was really like none of them had really been to demo day and none of them really were presenting at demo day. And so if you're already presenting, that's really awesome, because it's a really great opportunity to get out there and showcase your work and have industry folks see what you're working on and be able to give you kind of some feedback. And, just to kind of practice networking and, there's free food. It's a really good time. You get to see what everybody else is creating. Very collaborative, fun experience. So I will encourage you guys, come on down to demo day, even if you're not presenting. But if you're able to get your video done, I'm gonna take, I'm just gonna put a reel together between your class and the other class, and we'll showcase it on one of the TVs. So, you'll at least have something there if you're able to get that done in time. So let's talk about, official submissions. So I will give you some rubrics coming up very shortly for the final so that you can have a look at that. But something that you should be aware of is the final delivery dates. So in terms of like your actual assignments, I need all of those by Friday, December 12th at the latest. So I will accept things late. If you missed an assignment, you can still go do it. The only thing that I really like punish you that for that is at midterm and final. Um, for your regular class assignments, it's more about the fact that you did it. And even if it takes you a little bit of time to go back and get it done, like please take the time to turn those assignments in because they really will hurt your grade or help your grade, depending, whether you do them or not. So, like my expectation is that you do them. Um, December 12th is the last day that I will accept those, and that's Friday at 11:59 p.m. I have to have all of your grades in by the 18th at 5 p.m. So I'm giving you for the official submission for your final project, the last day to turn that in, and that's a very, very, hard deadline is the 14th, Sunday the 14th at 11:59 p.m. And I think that's pretty fair. I have it listed as Friday here, but I actually don't. I intend for you to have 2 extra days. So let me fix that right now because I want to give you until the 14th for that. Just so that gives you a little bit of extra time. I think that's more than fair and gives you time to focus on your other projects that, may have like super pressing upcoming deadlines with demo day and things like your big, your showcase that you really want to make sure that you have together. But I want to give you time to also focus on revising one of these projects, bringing a character to life, and doing some ideal camera work that, just, helps you enjoy creating really nice cinematography in a CG environment. So, like I said, if you're up to the challenge, I think you should try to take it to Unreal Engine. But if you show true revision in Blender and Cycles, and you have a good reason for staying in Blender versus going to Unreal Engine, then I will allow that as well. But you have to show that you're pushing revision and be able to showcase, your new animated character in there and how you've improved upon your scenes from midterm if you stay in Blender either way. Can't really just kind of use it as a, really a cop out. It's more just if you have something that you've really kind of passionately put a lot of effort into, you may want to continue pushing it there. And so that is going to be the option. So today we're going to dive into Unreal Engine 5. We're going to talk about a little bit of basics, um, mostly just kind of standard asset pipeline where you can go get additional things that you want to put in your levels, how we can start to source different materials, and hopefully get you guys some more assets. And that might be one reason that's attractive for you to want to go to Unreal Engine is because A, it's actually the game engine that you're building games in. B, you'll have access to these new like super awesome landscaping tools and procedural content generation so that you can basically essentially design an entire world very 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 quickly. It still takes a little bit of technique to be able to paint your landscape to guide everything, but once you know how to paint that base, being able to fill it with generated mesh that procedurally adapts to everything in your world is actually quite simple. Um, So that's something I think that maybe, if you're in a good place with your project, you're comfortable with where you're at, that may be something that you want to take on It'll probably help you in lots of other classes. So the other reason would be that there is an absolute insane amount of materials that you have access to inside of Unreal Engine. So the first thing we need to do to get in there is basically fire up our Epic Games launcher, and while we're waiting on Unreal Engine to open, we'll take a look at Fab. So I'm going to go into my library here, and I'm just going to pop up in 5.5.4, and I will make a new project. And that'll take just a second. And so I'm really happy actually about the updates that they recently made to Fab. I think that the new Fab plugin is actually a big improvement over our Fab situation, the past few months to a year. It's been a little bit crazy, and I feel like the old Epic Games Store was something that a lot of people really kind of missed how easy it was to use, and I think Fab is starting to get that way. So Quixel Megascans is one reason that this is such an attractive option to us, because it's literally, photo scanned assets and photo scanned textures, and because you guys are using Unreal Engine, you have access to use all of these for free. So does everyone else in the entire world that's using Unreal Engine. But that doesn't mean that they're not of super high quality, and I think that's some of the pain that you guys have maybe experienced with Substance Painter, is that without having the commercial license, you just frankly don't have access to like the depth of textures and things like that that you may want. And so I think that can be like incredibly frustrating for you as students. It was for me whenever I had big dreams and no money to spend on them. And it makes life difficult if you can't get the things that you want to build what you want to make. So for this particular project, we're just going to use like a blank game template. But if I was working for something like virtual production, like true cinematics, like if I was trying to work with that LED wall downstairs at the CMII, then I'm going to go to more of a film and video and live events project, and I probably would use something like this virtual production based template. Or the in-display setup is great if you're trying to set up an LED wall for the first time. But if this is something that you guys are truly interested in, more in like a cinematography side of things and film and television, then I would highly recommend reaching out to some of the MFA students. They took my class and they basically built out a template for the LED wall downstairs, and also have calibration files for all of the lenses for our Canon Cine Primes and our Red Komodo and Red V Raptor cameras. So if you get in touch with them and ask how you can get involved maybe with a couple of their projects, I'm sure they would be more than happy, to teach you and to help you learn the ways of virtual production. It's quite a lot of fun, but it requires a pretty high level of knowledge in both virtual production, real world cameras, and how you build a bridge, but how you basically bridge the gap between the CG world and our real environment and our real actors. And so it's really a lot of fun, but it takes a high level of precision and understanding of both. And games are, a great entry to kind of get into those techniques. You're already starting to work with CG characters, you're learning how to bring them to life, you're learning how to create beautiful worlds that you can explore. You're luckily limited by efficiency, you have to actually build efficient things or it's not going to work very well. So let me come in and set a location for this project and we'll get things rocking and rolling. All right. Just going to create a UE5 folder. I'll come in here and I'll name this thing. And I'll just call this demo UE5. And this is really just going to be standard asset pipeline. Like when I set up my levels, I don't really just come up here. I don't like to start out with the third person level. I like to start out blank and then I'll come back and add the third person features to it, which is something that I do want. Like I pretty much want this third person kid in there immediately. I just prefer to start with a blank level and I don't start with starter content. I can always go back and add it later. And I am doing a blueprint project right now, but I will tell you with the power of like the new AI tools that if you have Cascador or even like premium chat GPT, like you're way more dangerous in C++, even with like minimal coding knowledge right now. Because blueprints are basically just kind of interpretations of C++ code that's built to compile and for you to understand how to interface with it. But if you kind of know what you want and you find that blueprints won't take you where you want to go exactly, C++ and a little bit of AI injection can go a very long ways. So I don't really want to work with this giant open world template either. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in and I'm going to go new level and I'm going to click basic. I don't know what this Discord thing popping up on me is. And so I just want a basic level to start out with. This is kind of like the old school, UE4 base template. And I prefer to build this way. We're not trying to build a giant open world level right now. We're building a small, concise composition that basically needs to be well defined. And even if I wanted a landscape, I don't want their landscape. I'd go back and I would create my own. So ideally, I'm starting here or I'm starting at like a full black level with absolutely no lighting or anything in it and build it up from scratch. And I think that's really kind of the best way to do it. So just so that I can kind of save this thing, I'm going to come in and just drop a cube in. You have to make any kind of change to be able to save the map. I'm going to make a new folder, call it maps. Go inside of there, file, and I'm going to save all maps, and I'll just call this demo 01. And so while I'm in here, I'm going to go on ahead and turn on a few other things. I want to get rid of this Discord overlay. That's kind of terrible. That must be new. I don't know why they decided to do that. Maybe if I put it in another window, it'll go away. Okay, let's try like again. Oh no, it's still doing it. If anybody knows how to turn that off, let me know. I'm gonna look it up later. But it's probably gonna kind of mess your recording up a little bit. So I'm gonna go into project settings to begin with. That's the very first thing that I want here. I'm gonna go to the maps and modes tab. Shift tilde. Got you. Whoop. Man, that's terrible that they did that. Sorry, let me get rid of this thing. It won't let me. Oh no, this is terrible. Well, what on earth? I want it to go away. Huh. Sorry guys, this is a new feature. I didn't know they had done this to me.
It should be in the settings somewhere under overlay. If you just go to your Discord.
Ah.
Yeah, then go to the gear and the bottom left.
Got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. There's my user feedback. I hate it. All right, so I'm gonna grab my map and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna populate the editor startup map and the default map. And if you didn't see where I went to do that, I'll open that again now that you can actually see the tool menu. I'm going to go to setting or project settings. And while I'm in here, I also want to take care of one other thing that's very important. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to type in virtual texture. And I need to come to this box where it says enable virtual texture support. And this is what allows us to import our UDIMs into Unreal Engine 5. So I'm going to turn that on, and then it's going to ask me to restart it, and I'm going to let it do it, and I'll just say save selected and get it over with. And so luckily, once you're in 5.5, I believe they've already turned on the GLTF plugin. And so we will need to make sure that you have a couple of things. Like you want to make sure that you have the Fab plugin installed, and you want to also make sure that you have, eventually you're going to want the Real Illusion plugin for next class. But I can kind of show you how we set that up. All right, so now we have virtual texture workflow enabled. We can close this window out. We're going to come back up here to plugins, and we're going to check a couple things just to make sure we're good to go. So I'm going to type in GLTF, and that should already be turned on for you. If it's not, you want to turn this on. This is what's going to allow us to bring in GLTF models versus like FBX. And so the main difference is your GLTFs are really built for like an OpenGL shader workflow, and they're really easy to work with. They're a little bit lighter weight. They may not have quite the complexity that your FBX model can contain, but the real like big thing about them is that all of your textures and materials are going to stay assigned, and they're going to automatically stay set up. So that makes them like extremely easy to work with. And that's why this is kind of important, and we'll import both FBX and GLTF and go through both workflows to make sure you got it. It's a pretty quick and easy process. So aside from that, it doesn't look like I have any Real Illusion plugins installed right now, which is okay because we're going to go and install them from the Epic Games launcher. So I can come back over here and go to my library, or if you don't have them yet, you probably have to go to Fab, and that's okay. We can install them from there. I'm going to click on Unreal Engine, and I'm going to type in Real Illusion, and you'll see Real Illusion Incorporated. And so they have a lot of like really useful things that you can download. So they have like some actor core sample motions that are free you can play with. They actually have like the full rig setup now for basically working with 5.5, and if you have Character Creator 5, you can actually work with 5.6 now as well. It has the direct base skeleton, and so what's cool is even if you miss something or need to make final tweaks, you can basically just apply the IK rig and you still have like full animation controls directly in Unreal Engine on the characters. But aside from that, the thing that you mostly need right now is basically this iClone Unreal Engine live link. The UE control rig is very useful too, but for now this is the only thing you really need is the iClone Unreal Engine live link plugin, and you'll want to install this, and it's going to ask you which version, and so I'm just going to install it to 5.5, and then once I do that I'll have to reset Unreal to be able to do that. And you actually, it's a two-part process. So that basically just allows us to use live link so we can link up our animated characters later on and like basically automatically send our characters over. But whenever you work with Real Illusion products, like I'll just close this out and reopen it. It's okay. You actually need another plugin, and I'll show you this again next class when we actually set it up, like for our CC characters. But let's see. So you basically need the iClone setup, and then you need the auto setup for Unreal Engine. So it's really, really important. I'll drop this link in Discord for you. Now I can't find Discord. There it goes. But basically, this auto setup plugin right here is free to download, but you have to install it into your Unreal Engine project in the plugins folder for this to work. And I'll show you how to do this. Let me pull this off screen since it has my login credential stuff on. Sorry about that. Let me pull it up on another one. I'll follow the same link again. It keeps wanting me to change the password, and I can't do that right now. So, where is it? Get the tools. Free download. Download it. I didn't see it download, but there it goes. So once you download this for the first time, like, it's pretty important that you I like to set a shortcut to the folder basically on my desktop because I think it's easier to get access to it. And so the cool thing about this is the auto setup plugin will work in with, like, even if you don't have, if your computer, you're not using the same computer on campus that your Unreal Engine file's in, you can basically add the plugin to the file, and as long as you have everything set up for it, it's going to allow you to, you can be on your computer at your house and basically have the auto setup plugin and still import character creator characters and things like that, even if you don't have iClone on your own machine. So in this particular case, this is the one we're looking for, is this auto setup 5.5. And like I said, it's a good idea to link this folder to your desktop so that you have access to it. But basically, all we really want to do is we got to come in here and copy these two files. And I'm going to go back to where I just put my Unreal Engine folder, like the one that I just created. I'll show you this. So inside of here, we have a content folder, but we don't have a plugins folder yet. So I'm going to drag both of these in and import them. And so the reason that you want to do this, and it's so important, is because this is going to give you all the shaders set up, so it has all the base materials to be able to set up your real illusion characters automatically. And so the plugin was basically just a plugin for auto setup. So now when I go back and launch my project, I'll be able to turn on both of those plugins. And then we'll get into some more really cool stuff. So you can use your Blender materials for an Unreal Engine workflow, but they don't exactly transfer one-to-one. So I would recommend, honestly, like if you're going to bring your room over, to re-export your materials from Substance Painter in an Unreal Engine format, because it's just going to make your life a lot easier. But I'll show you what you can kind of do with both and why I think it's worth it. So I'm going to go back to 5.5, and I'm just looking for my little demo. There it is. New plugins are available, update it. And so now we have the Real Illusion tab, and I can turn these on if I want to. So the way I kind of recommend working with these, honestly, is I turn them on when I want to use them. And if I'm going to share the project with someone else, or I'm going to take it home to work on, you know, another computer that I haven't installed those plugins on, then I may turn them off like up in the plugins once my character's over because I can always go back and turn them on later. But it just makes it easier for like transferring it to people that may or may not have that software. All right, so that should be good to go now. We're back up and running and you can see everything's turned on. And another designation that this is working is you'll see up at the top that you now have auto setup and live link for Real Illusion Tools set up. And when you have iClone open, you can basically just come over here and you just turn on this port and it'll automatically see it. So it's like really cool. But for now, let's worry about simpler things like basic objects and kind of moving around. I absolutely love Unreal Engine because I can fly in here. You know, like that's like my favorite thing, WASD and then E for up, Q for down. Like it just makes things so much faster to work with and it's absolutely one of my favorite things. So before I start bringing objects in, one of the first things that I want to do to my level is I want to bring in a human reference so that I know where to basically start with everything. So I didn't add the third person character yet, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go click add and I'm just going to go add feature or content pack and I'll go third person and I'll add that to it. Oh, and we'll wait. And so now it's in there and we're good to go. So now you'll see over here on the left hand side in my content browser that I have the third person files here and also the character files for these things. So all I really want is a reference of this character. So I'm going to add a mannequin really fast. And I'll just go into mesh and I'll just grab like Manny and I'll bring them in. And you'll have to load his textures for the first time. And I'll place them and then I'll come over here in my details panel. I'll just go to general and I'm just going to zero the guy out and kind of put him at world center for now. And I'll probably move him around once I bring some other objects into Unreal Engine. So there are ways, I guess now that you can go back and try to readjust pivot points on objects inside of Unreal, but I'm really particular about that. I don't really like to export things not at world center. I like to define my export point by like just exporting them properly from the center of the world in Blender is basically what I'm saying. So now that we've enabled our virtual texture workflow, we have the ability to start bringing things in here. And so I'm going to go all the way back out to content. I'm going to make a new folder and I'll just call this assets. And inside of here, I'm going to make two different folders, one called FBX and one called GLTF. And character creator will make its own folders. Fab is going to make its own folders where we go get like the super awesome materials that we want to work with. So anything that you want to bring in that's like a GLTF, like if you want something to play with to practice, go check out Sketchfab. It's really great. Lots of free, awesome stuff on there. Do be careful about this new show restricted that's enabled automatically. If you have that unchecked, you might get some surprises, or if you don't have that unchecked. So, you know, that being said, there's awesome, like this is an awesome place to find cars and things like that. Like absolutely phenomenal place to find like really cool car assets that you can play with. They're not always perfect. A lot of this stuff is free, which is what makes it cool and fun for you as a student. I played with, so I just got a new car. I bought me a little commuter car. I got a little Elantra in, and they have, I found my car on here that they had basically a pretty much perfect model of it for free. and I was about to go buy it because I wanted to see what like some different wheels and stuff was going to look like. And so basically, let's say I want to bring my car into Unreal Engine. I'll just come over here and I'll grab a download, and they have an FBX format and they have a GLTF. So if you get that FBX, you're going to have to manually go back and set up all the textures for this car. And in some instances, that may be what you want. Um, you know, if you want that extra level of control, you maybe need to split this thing apart, make it so you can open the doors or do different things like that. You know, like they didn't split the hood out, but they have the whole engine like built pretty much to spec. So if I want to download this thing, I'll just come over here and I'll download a GLTF and I'll grab this thing and I'm just going to extract it. And so typically I like to take my files and move them to where my project is because I just think that's a very, very good and sound idea. So inside of here, I'll just make a source folder and I'm going to paste that. And so you'll see that it doesn't name them very well, but GLTF is absolutely the easiest format to work with. I'm going to bring the car in and then I'll do something totally different. I'll just bring in like a sword or a firearm or something like that so that I can show you how to work with like a handheld prop and how we should properly bring those things in if we want to use them on playable characters. So I'm going to go inside of the GLTF folder. I don't want to import it without making a folder just for it. So I'll just call it a launcher in. And inside of that, I want to keep all of my assets like nice and organized. So I'm going to go back and get that file. Whoop. Sorry, it's right here. And I need that GLTF, and I'm just going to drag it in, and it's going to import it. And so I can change the name. I haven't tested the scale on this. I don't have any idea if this car is going to come in at the correct scale. I speculate. Actually, I do know because I played with the car already. I speculate it's going to come in really small. And I'm going to let it. I'll import it twice. So like the proper way, like if I haven't tested an asset, I'm just going to bring it in like this. So you kind of have a few options here that are very important to you. On the static mesh tab, you need to go down to, oh, hold on, sorry, let me find this. I want to turn off the nanite. So all, it's right here. Build. Under static meshes on build right here, this first checkbox says build nanite. So if you're working with like a meshy asset or something like that, you might want to build it as a nanite object because it'll probably perform a lot better inside of your game because Unreal Engine is built to handle that. But it needs to handle it as a nanite to be able to deal with that kind of mesh level. So nanite doesn't work good on in quite a few instances like glass and things like that. It's just not that great. So for this particular case, if you're trying to import things from other places and they're looking weird when you're bringing them in, it's probably because this checkbox. So you want to come down to this build tab and you want to uncheck build nanite unless you intend for it to be nanite. And that's something that, you know, I think is very, very important. So this car actually has a skeletal mesh, so you can bring that in with it if you want. I just want it really as a static. I'll bring it in. It doesn't really matter. Actually, no, I don't want the rig right now, so I'm gonna turn these off. Might as well. We'll leave it rigged. It's okay. So we could uncheck everything and basically like not bring in these bones or remove them if you wanted to, but it's okay that it does have that. So if this was a static mesh, then you would have a couple other options, and we'll look at that with the sword. I guess you still have it here. You have the ability to combine the mesh or have the mesh all come in separate. And I think you would probably want to decide that, you know, like we'll just turn off the skeleton, doesn't really matter. We'll turn that off and I'm going to combine the mesh. And so this is going to bring the whole car in as one object. So it's just going to be easier for me to bring it in. But if I wanted to animate the wheels or actually use it as a car or set it up on a rig, then I would not do this. I would absolutely leave those as independent mesh, and then I would leave that skeletal rig in this car. But like I said, I just want it in, and I just want to play with it and see what it's going to look like. And first off, I want to see how big it is. So I'm going to find the car, and it's going to be really tiny, I bet. Oops. Sorry, I still had all the textures selected. Make sure you deselect all the textures, just grab the mesh and bring it in. And so like I said, this is really tiny. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll test the scale and see how big it is, if that's too large or if that's too little or about the right size. And I think after looking at it, whoop, end. I'll just hit the end key to lock it to the ground. After looking at that, I think that 100% is about what I want that scaled to. But I'm going to import it that way because I want it to be at 1-to-1 scale. So I'm just going to delete it back out. Or I could just try to re-import it. I could just drag it back in. That would work too. But I want it to be clean. And I'll show you the process again one more time. And actually, I'm going to put SM for static mesh at the front of it. And I'm going to change the scale value right here for uniform scale offset to 100 because that's what I was happy with. It should retain those settings on Nanite and combining the mesh until you go back and change that or do anything else with it. So I'm just going to import it and let that do its thing. And then I'm going to go find the car, which is at the bottom now instead of the top. And I'll bring that in. And I'm going to go find the body color. Sorry, one second. I'm going to bring this swatch in for the actual color of my car. And I'll grab the material. I'll go to base color and grab that blue from the color picker and save it. And my lights are super bright in here, so that's something we'll go in great detail in next class, and I'll probably change them around a little bit today. But you know, pretty sweet that you can hop right in there and get some really nice looking assets. Like, I was really impressed with the quality of this thing. Like, it's got the whole interior and everything. You actually can't see the gauges either, so it didn't do quite as good a job as Blender did. Like, Blender did a fantastic job with this thing. Crank up that emissive strength. Oh, it's still not showing. It's probably the opacity on the glass, maybe not showing through. See what it does. Nope. Huh. Have to play with that a little bit, but it looks like our GLTF did most everything right, but it kind of messed up a few things that I would have to go back and rebuild. But I don't want to get caught up too much in that right this second. I'd chase it and figure out how, like, which part of the car it is that's not allowing it to illuminate those gauges. But like I said, pretty sweet models right out of the hole. So that's GLTF. It's basically automatic. It works really great. You can't use this for your objects with UDIMs. You can use this for like things that have standard simplified maps, like that's not going to be any problem. But like our room from Blender is going to be an FBX challenge, and that's a little bit different for us. But before we bring the room in, let's go grab like a prop or a weapon or something like that from Sketchfab and bring that in and set it up. And this could just as easily be like a meshy sword. Like it could be anything. I'm just, you know, showing you like where you can get some free stuff for your games as you continue to build them and how you can easily get the stuff into your project. So it took me a hot minute to find one of these that actually had an FBX instead of just all GLTF because so many people have adapted to Blender and GLTF now. But let me see, I think this one. Yeah, let's grab the fantasy sword. So here is our fantasy sword, and we'll bring this in as an FBX, and we'll set the material up manually. So I'm going to download this FBX format. I'll come grab the fantasy sword and I'll extract it. And this could be any type of handheld prop. So we don't want to send our characters over from iClone or from anywhere else, basically with their weapons already in hand. We don't really want our props to be fixed to the hands, because we want to be able to apply motion to them and swap them out and upgrade them, and just have that level of control. So I'm going to grab the fantasy sword, I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to go back to my other folder. Well, I don't have it up, so here it is right here. Source. I like to keep everything together because it's easy to go back and find it later whenever I'm not thinking about it. So it is important to go look at the basically the attribution. So these people will allow you to use your stuff, but you have to credit them. Nobody really probably actually does that very much, but you should. Um, and they've asked you to do it, and they've made it easy. So that's really what you're supposed to do if you're using these people's stuff that they're giving to you for free. And it's not, a lot of it's not available really for commercial use either. So you got to be kind of careful when you're using these things. It's okay for student work, but commercial work not really so much. So I'm going to create a folder in here, call it sword. I'm going to bring the sword in. And this one has no skeletal mesh. We're not going to build nanite on this. Everything looks good, and we'll just bring that in. So you do have an advanced tab here, and you can combine meshes if there's separate stuff if you want to. That's also an option here. So we're going to import this guy, and we will see that it is way too big for our character. So I'm going to go into general and just kind of look at the scale. I'll start out with 0.1 and just see what that looks like. And that looks like a little tiny dagger, and that's not really going to cut it. So let's try 0.2. And you can manually scale these with the scale tool. I just, most of these things are either exported from Maya or Blender or Cinema 4D or something, and they're all either 1 to 10 ratio or 1 to 100 ratio or 1 to 1, the majority of the time when they come in at scale. But this one, it ended up being I think 0.2 looks pretty good for the size of our character. We could probably go 0.3 if we wanted to. But so I'm just gonna bring this thing back in and fix it, and then I'm gonna add all my materials as well with this guy. So I will change the name if it gives me the tab. I guess it doesn't with this. All right, we'll let it go. So import it, and oops, nope, I didn't fix it. Sorry, I forgot to change the scale. Sorry, guys. Let me do that for you. Trying to skip steps. Uniform scale, 0.2. Alright, and then we also have to bring in our textures. So you'll notice that all of your FBXs come with separate textures, and if you're downloading them off Sketchfab, there's a good chance that they're not ideal for Unreal Engine. You may throw some of these maps away, you may use some of them, you may use all of them. Just kind of depends on what you got. And if you don't like it, you can always drop this thing in Substance Painter, put their base color maps in, and plug in what you want to keep, and then export it as an Unreal Engine template so that you can use it for UE5. And I'll show you how to do that with our Substance files from our Blender project. You don't actually have to redo anything but export the textures in the new map set. So I open the material, and by default we just have like a parameter here. I'm going to delete that for now, and I do want to go in and I want to check a couple things on some of these textures. We'll just try plugging them. We'll plug them all up to begin with and see what we get. My speculation is that by default things will be maybe a little too shiny. And that's probably because some of these texture maps are not linear. They're set to sRGB color maps, and that's very important. So this is our roughness, and I'm just reading what they are. Like, it's not rocket science. This is the normal channel. This is my metallic map. This is an emissive. This is the base color, so I'm going to plug up the base color, and then I'm going to grab this metallic map. I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to grab the roughness channel. I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to come in and I want to make sure this is, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's fine, but if I don't think they would it would import a normal channel without it being linear. So I'll plug in the normal map. This is our ambient occlusion pass. Plug that in. And then we have emissive, and I'm not really sure what the sword curve map is. It's probably some type of maybe even like displacement or something like that. But I'm not really sure exactly what they intend for you to plug this into. Like I said, this texture set wasn't really built for Unreal Engine, so I'm probably going to leave it out. But this is our emissive. And so we can plug that in. And typically, anytime I'm running an emissive here, I'm going to hold the M key to make a multiply node and just replace this thing. And like same thing with like any of these. If I want to make adjustments, like make it less shiny later or want to add more diffuse, I'm basically just going to pipe in multiply nodes. And so then I'm going to hold 1 to add a constant and just plug that up down here. And so once I have this parameter created, I can go over here to the right and I can basically I can basically grab this and go convert to parameter, and I can just call this, emissive AMT for emissive amount, and I can set like a default value. You could do it 1.0 if you wanted to, and then have like a minimum and a maximum on the slider, and that's pretty cool. And so that will basically, so we don't have a group for that yet. So we can come into our parameters now, and now we can basically kind of dial that emissive up. You also could multiply this by a color if you wanted to. Like, since that's, just solid white, we could consider adding like, like a vector 3 and then coming in with that cool ice blue color that it has. And we could even add another multiply, or maybe possibly we might want to add it, but I think we're going to multiply this again. And then we can get more of that like glue glow, or that kind of blue glow. Ooh, I mixed my B and my G up. Kind of that blue glow that the original sword had, right? And that 28 may be too powerful. Like, we may only need like, like 5, or actually that doesn't look near enough. I want 10. That 28 was pretty nice. We'll see how that looks on the actual sword. It may glow too much in the environment, but so there we go. We've set up that material, and now our sword is looking pretty badass. And we've actually got some glow coming off of it. But so it just depends, if it's something that's really complex that you need to set up fast, or is it something that you want to artfully put together and you want to go in and make additional tweaks inside of your material layers. And you could do it at both, like with both assets. It just depends kind of how deep you want to go and what workflow makes sense for what you're trying to work with and what you need to do to manipulate it. So I've imported that third person character, like we're set up for that. Let me go down here. Whoop. I don't want the rig, I want the one second. Where's my mannequin? Oh, it's okay. We'll get to it. I know how to get to it another way. It's all right. We'll get to it really quickly. Um, so inside of my world settings, go up here to your game override and do third person game mode. And then basically from here you can just hit the folder and it's going to take you into your engine content and just get you directly to where your third person blueprint character is. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is duplicate this and just call it like BP, demo character, or demo 01's fine. It really doesn't matter. You can name it your character. And then, so I'm going to need to come back there, but I want to, oh, I already have a characters folder. Let me see. I'm going to make one in here that I can control. So I just want to move this up here because I don't want to have to keep coming back to get it because it's annoying. So I'm just going to drag it over here and move it so it's like back up in my assets. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to populate my selected game mode basically with the third person character here so we can rock and roll. Did somebody have a question? Let's see, or anything. Oh. Alright, so let me open this guy up. And this will just be our standard character. So if we want to work with this guy and we want to be able to put weapons in his hands so that we can work with him, we want to socket them. We don't want to like use them in a non-eloquent way. So I'm going to come over here to this mesh, and since we're using this particular mesh, it's okay to add it to it, to add the socket to the Quinn Simple. So I'm just going to double click that. It's going to open up Quinn Simple. I'm going to go to my skeleton tab here, and I'm going to come up to character, bones, and I'm going to say show all hierarchy so I can actually see the bones in the character that I'm working with. And let's say I want to put the sword in the right hand, then I'm going to want to find like the hand bone or something like that that will work for me. So I'm going to find this right hand over here in my skeleton, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a socket to it. And so this is going to create a new socket, and I want to name this. Like, so I'm going to rename this thing, let's just call it weapon slot 01, or you could say sword, whatever you want to do. And so I'm going to use this weapon slot 01, and then I'm going to right click this and I'm going to add a preview asset, and now I'm going to type in sword. I'm going to add that sword to it that we've created, or we didn't create, we just downloaded it, but we set it up, added the textures back, and I'm just going to position the sword into his hand with the move and rotate tools. Gonna have to rotate a little bit more, and I'm going to turn that rotate snapping off. So I don't want to angle it out too much. And we're just going to try to get that into position. Obviously we would need to add correct animations for sword fighting and things like that if we wanted to do this to a playable character. But so we're just locking this in, and we've created our socket. And so I'm going to save that. And I'm just going to copy that name for now, but they've actually made it easier. You don't even have to do it. Like, it's not near as hard to add a weapon anymore. So I come back to my character here. This is our BP demo guy. I'm have the mesh selected. I'm going to go add, and then I'm going to type in static mesh. I'll just call this sword 01 or weapon slot 01, whatever you want to call it. And probably a good idea to put, like, it's just good proper naming. If it's going to be a static mesh, to put SM. So you know what it is. I'm going to come over here to the static mesh weapons, or like right over here. I'm going to look up for the sword. I'm going to add that. And all I have to do is come up to the parent socket. And I'm looking for weapon slot 01. And now my sword is going to be on my character. So just compile and save it. You know, super easy thing to do. And then we can, I'm just going to go file save all and close those. And now we can hit play. And since our player start was underneath the car, it didn't let us work. It's a tall car. We can't jump on top of it. We have to change our features. Oh, it's got a weird collision on it. Won't let me get on top of it. That's kind of not cool. We could fix it though. So if you have issues like this happen where your characters can't get into stuff, or like you can't walk through a doorway, there's an easy way to fix it, but it's kind of expensive computationally, so not necessarily always the best way for a heavy game, but it will work. Just know that it makes the collision more expensive if you do this, but I'll show you how to fix it. I didn't mean to get into this category, but I will show you this because sometimes like you'll make mesh and you won't be able to walk through the doorway or something like that. So it's really useful. See, I want to preview it first. Let me make this full screen. Show simple and complex collision. So right now it's using this collision mesh for the car, but we can switch it and actually if we really wanted to have like detailed interaction, we can use the other collision mesh that ships with the car. So I basically can just go down here on this asset. Actually, it's just in the settings. We don't even have to do anything over there. Collision settings, where are you at? There you are, collision complexity project default. You can say use complex collision as simple and save it. And like I said, this is an expensive thing to do, but it will work. And so now we can actually like, you know, walk on top of the car and it looks like much more natural. Because it has a better collision mesh. Does that make sense? Like why that would be something that would matter? I mean, hopefully, I'm sure it's probably something you've ran into or you either learned how to solve it or you would have eventually. Okay, so let's talk about bringing in the room really quick. Let's get our actual room in here. We'll bring that 70s environment. I'll show you kind of how I can bring those walls in. And I'm actually going to re-export the texture files from Substance Painter. So to begin with, you could use your same FBX file. Like if you haven't made any changes, you could use the one that you sent to Substance. It wouldn't make any difference. So I'm going to grab these walls and I'm going to go File and I'm going to go Export. And so you can see that we have a GLTF option in Blender, which is why it's so kick-ass, because you could send things like those meshy props and stuff like that as GLTF and it would work just fine. You also can re-import them with one button from Meshy back to Unreal Engine. So it's really just whatever you want to do, like whether you're staging here or you want to send everything over here, you've made changes, it's something you need to that you've corrected. That's what you're accounting for. So in this particular case, I'm going to send this out as an FBX like we did before. And I'm just going to navigate to my source folder here. '70s room 01. And that's going to be, whoop, oh, it froze up on me. We'll give it a second, see if it comes back. It's streaming and recording in Blender and Unreal Engine. Oh, come on. I don't want to wait on it. I'll just relaunch it. File, export, FBX. Oh, I didn't change all my settings either. I needed to change a couple settings anyway, so let me redo that. So, E, sorry, I just got to get to my file again. Source, '70s room. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to send selected objects mesh only. I'm going to change this to Z up, and there is one thing that we do want to change for Unreal Engine. On our smoothing settings where it says normals only, we're going to switch this to face, and so we don't have any animation, so I'm going to uncheck that. And the armature is not of importance to us, but all of that should get it done. And so I'm going to export that. And I can go ahead and bring the room in, and then I'll export the textures separately. So in the FBX folder, '70s room, go back to my source where the '70s room is, and I will import the FBX. Oh yeah, it's behind it. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in at 1:1 scale. And I know that my room's a little short. I'm going to have to scale it up a little bit for it to work properly. But something I should have fixed that I just haven't done. So here we go. I'm going to import this thing. And here's my room. And I'm just going to come back to my details panel, set this to 0, 0. And for now, I'm just going to hit scale, and I'll just bring the size of this up a little bit after I turn off scale snapping. Oop. Uniform scale from the center. I don't need the car inside the room necessarily, but it can stay in the house, I guess, for now. Or outside. Move it in the driveway. Keep my reference guy in there. And so we can see everything looks pretty good, and you can see that you can see right through the walls, which is why for a lot of rendering in Unreal Engine, we can come in and we will, like for something like this room, we can come in and set this to two-sided, and it will help, but it still won't block out all of the light. So when we talk about lighting, next class, I'll show you how to build out some blocking volumes that are just like really simple that will basically handle all this light spill that's like just interjecting into your space, like really quickly. So that's something that, is pretty important to fix in that. So like I said, you could bring in the Blender files that you've exported before, but they're not really the right format. and it's not really any more effort for us to go get the correct textures from Substance Painter. So I'm going to go back to Adobe, Creative Cloud, to Substance Painter. I might need to close Blender. I'm going to close Blender so that we got one less program running. So I'm going to come over here, recent files. I'm going to open up, I believe it is this one, Room 01. We'll see. Nope, that's not it. Hopefully I saved it. Oh no, that's the same one. Same one. Uh-oh. Sorry, 1 second here, guys. Let me figure out which one it is. This will work. I believe this is the same room. It's not the one I wanted, though. I've done this room a lot of times, as you can tell. Okay, this will work. So, same room, same UV maps, everything's good to go. You can't fit textures to a room that they don't fit, so that's why I had to find the right one. So, this is basically exactly the one I have in Blender, but I want to come in and export this again. So I'm going to go File, and I'm basically going to export my textures the same way that I normally would, but the only difference is here is where it says Blender Principled BSDF. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go down and I'm going to choose Unreal Engine Packed. And so if you have alpha channel textures or something that has transparency, you'll want to switch your bit from 8 to 16. And so 16-bit allows you to support alpha channel and transparency. We're just going to run ours at 8-bit, and you do want to choose a location for where you want to place these textures. And we're making pretty good time here. And so I'm in the folder where my model is. I'm just going to create a folder called text, put it in there, select the folder, and hit export. That's why we save those Substance Painter files, so we can go back and fix things if they go wrong. So once it's exported, I can click Open Output Directory, and it's just going to take me to that folder where everything is. And I am done in Substance Painter. I can close this out, save it, whatever. So now I need to bring these textures in. And so what's really cool is with the UDEM setup, which I believe that, let me make sure that had a UDEM setup on it. I'm going to check that one more time. Yeah, it does. 1001, 1002, 1003. We're good. Never mind. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't not showing you what I thought I was. So this is virtual texture workflow. And so what's going to happen now is I'm going to bring these in, and I'm just going to click yes, override, apply to all, yes. And so this is going to give me what we call packed maps. So instead of having to go in and plug up everything individually, we basically have the ability to just hook up each one of these to our material. But before we drag them into our material, we have to make one change. On this occlusion roughness metallic packed map, you want to double click this and you have to uncheck sRGB. And so that's because we want this to be a linear map, and if you don't do this, everything will be like way too shiny and it'll be like super reflective. So I'll show you how the packed map works and how we reassemble these textures. So this is basically an Unreal Engine formatted texture. So it's specifically designed to work with UE, and that's why it's you know, a lot better than our Blender set because it's designed for the system. So I'm going to click shift and grab all these, and I'm going to drag them in, and we'll wait just a second. And just kind of spread everything out a bit. And so we don't have any emissive, like, so we can just delete that one. That's not really necessary. We really just need these three right here. So for the first map, we're going to plug our base color into base color. We're going to plug our normal map into normal map. You can always tell the normal map because it's usually like, you know, this ridiculous blue color. And then this is the tricky one. And so if you ever get confused, you can come and read it and it tells you the order. Occlusion, roughness, metallic. And so it packs these into the RGB channel. So we take R and we go to occlusion. Green is going to go to roughness. And blue is going to go to metallic. And then we can basically hit save. And our texture should show up on the wall. And they're still a little shiny, but oh, it's just settling in. We're okay. But I would say, you know, pretty close to accurate representation of what we're looking for, even though our lighting is like, you know, the surface of the sun right now. So, wow, that looks crazy when you get out here. But when you're actually inside the environment with the correct exposure levels, that won't look that way. So before I ever even start worrying about lighting in Unreal Engine, because it constantly fluctuates with the exposure shift, the first thing that I ever do, and this is really like a lighting lesson, like I shouldn't even be getting into this really yet, but it just drives me crazy not to have it in there. So the very first thing I'm going to do to my level is I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a post-processing volume. I'm just going to zero this thing out or drag it up in the air up above my room, whatever I want to do. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in infinite extent unbound and turn that on. And then I'm going to go to my exposure tab and I'm going to turn on exposure compensation, and then I'm also going to turn on minimum EV100 and maximum EV100, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to set these values to 1.0 so that I have linear exposure in the scene. And then from there, if I'm trying to change my lighting, I'll use like exposure compensation to maybe bring it up slightly or bring it down slightly. But before I ever even try to tweak the lighting, that's the first thing I'm going to always do in Unreal Engine, is try to level out the exposure so that it's not fluctuating, because it's really hard to dial in lighting whenever everything's just like fluctuating all over the place. But does that make sense about the UDEM assets, like how to bring them in, how that virtual texture workflow works to get that in with an FBX versus a GLTF? Anybody got any questions about any of that? Is it all pretty straightforward? It's easy. Um, awesome, awesome. Well, that's basically the bulk of what I wanted to cover today. I want you guys to basically start trying to move some assets over. Oh, no, I forgot to show you Fab. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I was like, there's 20 minutes left. There's got to be something I'm missing. Yes, there is. So this is the base of us getting into the landscape stuff. So Fab, this is the one thing I forgot to show you guys. That's awesome. So they put the new store inside of here. It's actually working a whole lot better than it was before. So that's really, really awesome. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go to my library. That's what I'm looking for right here on the top right. So if you don't have Quixel assets added to your library yet, you'll want to go and register with Quixel, and you'll also want to, you know, if not, you can just look up Quixel like this. You can just type in Quixel, or Quixel. Let's see, let me get out of my library. I'll go back home and type it. So you can just type in Quixel Megascans. And so these are all free for you to download and for you to use. Like if you see all these materials that they have like just an absolute massive library of materials that you can use. And not just that, but also 3D objects. So like it's a wide range of accessories, things you can use to bring things to life. We also can play with things like decals. So I really love decals, and I'll give you a great example of how I like to use these. Like with debris or vegetation. Let me see. I'll just go back to building and human made category. So if I'm trying to do like city streets, I'll go in and get like a really nice black asphalt from Quixel and get things coming together for myself. And then I might come in and put the lines in actually with decals, or I may, come back and add sewer caps or like, rubble on the ground that just kind of breaks it up and adds a little bit of depth. And I can do all of that like directly through a decal. And so, like, you can also put like paper on the wall, posters, rugs on the floor. You just have to know the right settings to when you set your decals up so that it works the way that you intend. And you can make these things yourself as well. Like, they're really good for like custom graffiti or logos or something that is just like a small detail that you maybe missed in the creation process. But let me show you with the most easy thing, like how we get materials in here. So I'm going to just go back to the My Library tab because I have everything from Quixel downloaded, all 12,000 assets. Um, that at least all the old free stuff. Like they have new stuff, but that I don't have. And so you have to make sure that the account that you're logged into Quixel with is the same account that you're logged into Unreal Engine with. If you're logged into two separate accounts, it'll break and it doesn't work. So that's something to be aware of. Also, with the iClone software, you need to register that with your GSU email address to be able to get access to the assets, or it won't let you send them over to iClone. That's something I've recently found out from a couple of students that had this issue. So let's say I wanted to download this asphalt, right? Um, Really easy to go get this. I can come up here to the top right, and as long as I have Unreal Engine open, I can go to high quality and I can basically just go add to project. And it's going to add this directly into my project. And so that makes things like really, really easy to get. And so you can see now that's a drag and drop material. If I wanted to preview that, I could bring in a cube and I could throw it on it. And we can adjust textures, tiling, everything that we could adjust, the same way that we basically would in Substance or anything else. So like I can come into tiling. You can also offset X and Y if you need to, but like we could go down to like 0.2, or sorry, like the opposite direction. We'll go like 10, maybe 5. Ooh, that tiling's sticking out bad. And so if you have tile like textures that are tiling weird like this, sometimes that's where you have to come in and get some dirty tricks together and rebuild the material to get the result you want. And that's a trick I'll show you in the landscape recording I'm going to give you. That's going to really help you, I believe, with that. So pretty cool. You have access to lots of new materials, different things you can add. Um, if you want to use Quixel assets like the CG stuff, the stuff that I'm okay with is organics. So like if you need plants or anything along those lines from the Fab store, then that's okay to have in your foreground. But what I don't really want you to do is to go in and start, filling your immediate hero asset foreground area with things that, are just basically Quixel scans. I would prefer that you can use those like so. Here's a great example. You set your back plate up in Unreal Engine. We go in, we fix your HDRI map, or we use the sky system in Unreal to get your final lighting outlook or output that you want. You can use Quixel assets anywhere outside of the windows, like outside of the room. You can use anything Quixel you want, or anything that you source that you want. Like if you've got a city outside of there, you want to source some cars to be outside, you can do that. Um, I'm not going to say you can't, but inside of this room, only organic things can you source from Quixel. So, like plants, food, things like that. Does that kind of make sense? Like for defining an area, like you can use stuff to download for this environment refinement. If you like in either scenario, whether it's Blender or Unreal, but it can't be in like your immediate hero asset composition. Just mostly supportive assets. So this may crash the computer if I don't change some settings before I do it, but I'll just show you where the path trace render is if you want to know. So once you have your post-processing volume, before you turn this on, if you don't want to just like completely destroy your computer or take like an hour to render one frame, you want to type in path or path tracing, and you want to turn on maximum bounce and samples per pixel. And so I'm going to turn the maximum bounce down to 10, and I'm going to turn my samples per pixel down to like 100. Like 100 to 500 is probably fine for what you're trying to do with this. I'm also going to turn on like global illumination. And so this can mess your glass up too. You have to build different types of glass for path trace rendering, like all kind of stuff. Um, so I'm going to basically my global illumination settings here, and I'm going to turn on like lumen scene lighting quality, lumen scene detail, and final gather quality here. And I'm just going to crank all these to like 2.0, which is not in your computer's favor. So if your computer's not very powerful, don't do this. This is just going to help quality while reducing the render settings. And so this doesn't actually render it like this. We have to actually go through the movie render queue to actually even render out like this. But I'm going to show you like that it has path tracing built in. So just like Unreal Engine, just like Blender, you basically have like a path trace render engine here, like this, which is pretty cool, right? I don't know if have you guys ever played with the path trace render by chance?
Yeah, no, I've never done like in-depth lighting with Unreal before, so this is all unmarked territory to me.
Like we didn't even touch the lighting yet, but like look how sick that looks like right out of the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks pretty sick. Yeah, this is like I said, this is all like brand new to me.
It's okay.
So
Like whether it's the first time seeing it or like you're deep in the weeds and this is something you're immediately getting, it's okay. Like I know I'm stacking a lot on you, but it's kind of like, think of it as like we're in bonus rounds now and we're just trying to get as much cool stuff in as we can, and I want to show you like a lot of sweet techniques that I think will help take your game design level up to, like it's just going to take you up to the next level and allow you to do some stuff that maybe was limiting you before. That's probably like really easy. Um, but like this is expensive. It takes a long time to render like this. And as you'll see, actually the glass did pretty good on the car. It handled it pretty well. I might would have to do some slight tweaks on that glass, but this is how everybody gets those like super realistic renders out of Unreal Engine is with the path tracer. Um, so if you've ever wondered, it's usually path tracer plus like multi-pass rendering and like features like that are allowing people to get this like high fidelity look out of their engine. And we haven't lit a single thing. We have done not tried to do anything to make the lighting better or worse at all. Um, but like this is why I wanted to show you this. Like if you were on the fence and you're like I'm just gonna stay in Blender, I want to show you like the abilities that await you if you follow me down this dangerous rabbit hole of trying to complete this in the next few weeks. um, and so, yeah, that's really kind of what I got for you guys today for the most part. I think that's a lot of stuff. Um, we could try to do decals. We could try to do a decal real quick, maybe. Actually, let me do decals next time because I want to. There's like two different ways to set them up, and I want to show you like a very specific way, so that the character, like if you have like blood stains on the floor or something like that, so that when your character runs through it, that it doesn't like paint the whole legs of the character red, and it doesn't like influence other objects in your scene, like when you interact with them. Like there's a couple different settings, and I just need to go back and look at exactly what I did for that. I'll just pop up my old project to be able to pull that out and kind of show you, you know, like the best way I think you can set that up. And so path tracing, you don't play games like this. This is for cinematic rendering, and then we can always just pop back. But you know, think of it as like EV and cycles. You know, like we're working in the real-time environment. You know, this is more like what it's going to look like when you're playing in this level. But if we want to get like, you know, some badass cinematics going, then that's when we whip out that path tracer and we set up our sequencer and we actually like animate everything in the timeline. And you know, I'm going to show you how to preview everything with live link, and the live link functions actually, once you're hooked up, perform so much better in Unreal Engine. You can actually see your animation performing as intended without near the like FPS loss. So you know, I love Unreal Engine. I really do. Like, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know you guys hear me preach a lot of AI shit, and I do love AI too. But before I ever, you know, cared anything about AI, I truly, you know, like love working in Unreal Engine and just telling cinematic stories and building cool stuff that I like to make. Playing with characters, blowing shit up, you know, like it's a riot. I have a good time. I hook up like full blown driving simulator rigs to Unreal Engine to drive the cars around for Suicide Squad. Like I just play like a kid all the time with new toys, and because I learn where like five or six more checkboxes are than most people do, I can, you know, I have a job, and it allows me to have fun for like basically the rest of my life. And that's what I want you guys to be able to do. And like even though I'm real hard on you a lot of the time, it's because I know that the fight is now, and that if you kind of suffer through it and you know you suck some of these things up a little bit and really just start driving your levels forwards, then you're going to put yourself in a position that opens up doors and creates opportunities that never will if you don't learn where like those extra 8 check boxes are. And a lot of times it's just silly stuff and you can't learn it all at once, but you got to get in there and you got to try and make enough mistakes so that you can learn how to fix them, because the whole game is not making it perfect out of the whole. It's being an artist and being able to look at it creatively, but to have a very solid plan going into it for what you want to create, and just being able to, you know, let your creativity run wild but in a productive way that enhances your output. And I think you guys, you know, like I said, I didn't even tell you guys the shit like I told the other class. But so I went through the midterms, and between both classes, I was able to easily put together like 26, 27 images of like really nice renders that I was able to send to over to Brennan, just to show him like kind of what you guys have been up to and what you're making and what your work looks like. And so, you know, like that's really like a good thing to be able to be like, hey, there's 25 out of, you know, like 40 kids that have like really solid pieces together. And my goal in this next, you know, few weeks that we have together is to let's see how we turn that you know 24 25 out of 40 into as close to 40 out of 40 as we can get. And I'll be real happy. And you'll be real happy because you'll have a portfolio piece, and that'll be one less thing you got to worry about when you get to that class. And hopefully have two more scenes that are ready to be turned into portfolio pieces as well. And if you finish one scene and you're like, I'm happy with this, I didn't tell you you couldn't finish all three. You know, it's your portfolio. My advice, 6 to 8 portfolio pieces is what's going to get you a job. 6 to 8 well-rounded, good, solid portfolio pieces that tie into concept, shows your process work, and the ability to talk about the process is what's going to open those doors to help making things become a reality for you. So, you know, trust me on the journey. I'm going to show you some crazy stuff. Like if you even think you want to go to Unreal Engine, start bringing some of that stuff over. And, you know, you can also hook up the Meshy plugin too. Like, so in the plugins, see, we can let me make sure I have it turned on. Unreal plugin. I haven't even watched the instructions for this, but my guess is I might already have it installed. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's per project. I should look at the instructions. Let me just make sure so I'm not just the blind leading the blind here. Um, enable the plugin. Hmm. Click the front of the mesh. Let's see. Oh, this is the part I want to see. Oh, run the Meshy Bridge plugin. Okay, that's what you got to do. Do what? So I'm doing what it says. It says run it. Oh no, that's just opening the code. What? I think you've I'm gonna have to. I'll look up the video on how to hook up this plugin because I haven't done it yet for it. In a minute, I did it like when I first set this up, but I don't think I have this on right now. So let me see if I have it plugged in. No, I don't know if you install. I don't want to tell you the wrong way. So my advice is we're gonna look. I'm gonna look at the video and make sure exactly what you're supposed to do. Let's see. After installation, you can click the Unreal Engine icon next to the model's download button. What? It says that it just works? No, you have to download it. Hmm. Okay, let me see. Maybe you just put it in the plugins folder. That's what I'm guessing is how this is going to work. Let me save this and I'll open it again really quick. I'm doing this on the fly, like untested here, so it don't matter if I mess mine up. I'd rather mess mine up than yours. So let's try that. I wonder if you can, I guess you can't just install it from Fab yet. I'll check. But basically, once you get the plugin set up, it works exactly like it does with Blender. It's funny, when I was first setting this up, I was mostly doing it with a piece of Chinese software called Huanyan 3D. And that's was like kind of my way of doing it. Um, yep, so Meshy Bridge is plugged in, got it on. Um, Now I can just go back over here to Meshy. So basically all I did was add it to the plugins exactly like the Real Illusion folder. kind of want to send the giant cheeseburger over just because it's ridiculous. I'm sending the cheeseburger or the deer head. How about the deer head? It's kind of gruesome. My dad's like an old person from the country, and I was like, "Look, Dad, I can make a deer head in 10 seconds." Like he wasn't too impressed with just making random shit, so I made him a deer head. Some taxidermy for the wall. So go to download. Actually, we don't want to download. Where's my plugin? Oh gosh, now I can't find my setting. I guess I have to turn it on up here. Alright, my assets. Give me the cheeseburger or the deer head, I don't really care. Hmm. My API stuff's not showing up right now. Let me see what I'm doing on here. Oh, I bet you over there in Unreal Engine, I bet you there's another step they don't tell you about. I'm pretty sure. Hmm. Sorry guys, I wanted to work this out for you real quick in case you were trying to go ahead and send those over without sending them. Enable the plugin in Unreal Engine. What? I've already done this. It should be run. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do is run the bridge. Oh, you're saying you think I need to run it now beforehand. Oh, I got you. I did not physically run the bridge, so you were right. I skipped a step. Um, I didn't plan on going this far today, so it's okay. Let's work through it. I don't want to be a chicken about it. I'll fix it right now. I just don't want to do all this on recording because it's kind of ridiculous to waste 15 minutes doing it.
Performing on the biggest stage in the world was just one
Let's just see
step
what
in
they
my
say.
journey.
Oh, another commercial. Mesha, you already got my money. Like, come on now.
Front of the model, and it's only on the back of the model, so that is very interesting. And if I try the rate, the generations take.
Oh, it's just a review. It's not what I'm looking for. Sorry, locate Unreal Engine, navigate DCC bridge section of Meshy website and enable it. It should be enabled right now. Install the Meshy plugin, locate Unreal Engine plugin integration section, and click the icon next to the download button for a model. It should be on right now, to be honest. I'm pretty sure. Huh. Like I said, I might have to go watch the video real quick just to see how to hook up this versus Blender because it's a little different. But I feel like I already have the plugin turned on, so that shouldn't be an issue. Let's just try something again one more time. I don't know why I'm not seeing that DCC bridge set up yet. I guess it really doesn't matter what the object is at this point. And it could also be that my internet can't handle doing this while I'm streaming and recording and doing 10 other things. Why does it not have the DCC setting? Well, I'm not sure, guys. Like I said, I'll have to watch the video. I mean, like I'm sure it's just me watching a 5-minute video to like get this back up and going, but it's just because my DCC is not working right now. Like I don't even have the option to send it over. So, like I said, let me watch the video on that. If I'll show you at the beginning of class next time, or since I can't get it figured out right in front of you right now.
Hi Meshi creators, in today's tutorial we'll show you how to import Meshi generated models into Unreal Engine and build an awesome 3D scene. All the models you see here were generated by Meshi. You can find plenty of inspiration from our community. Let's get started. First, generate your 3D character using text to 3D. Next, click animation on the right sidebar. Select character type, place markers on the corresponding positions, and generate animation. Meshi offers a variety of animation presets. Just choose your favorite. Once it's in Unreal Engine.
Oh, they want me
Now
to go,
import.
what? Nah, that's not what we want. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not gonna waste any more time on the recording. You guys are free to go. I'll just send you the video when I figure out which one it is that is the correct one for setting up this plugin inside of Unreal Engine. I just haven't tried it yet. Figured it would work the same. It didn't work exactly the same for me, and I'm probably missing one simple step that is keeping this from working. So,
It's all good, man. We believe in you. I'm sure you'll get it.
yeah, I will for sure. Like I said, I've just got to go figure out why my workspace is not linking up to Unreal Engine like it does with Blender. So I just need to test that. But you guys are free to go.
Okay,
I'll
cool. Well, I will say that I do feel inspired now. I was gonna do the project when you said that we have a choice between Blender and Unreal. I was gonna do it in Blender, but I'm inspired. I think I'll try it. I'll try to do it on Unreal. I'll
it's
do it.
gonna look really good. I promise you that. And I will figure out why it's not working with the hook, like hooking it up to it. That kind of is very annoying for me too. That it didn't work.
It's all good. I mean, even if it didn't like set up the way you wanted, you could always just export it as an FBX and then work from there. So it's all
Yeah.
good.
Most
Coolio.
definitely. No, it's gonna work. I've used it before. I just haven't set it up on my desktop, I guess. Either that or I have it in the old version. But like I played with it like maybe 2 months ago, and then I guess it just, I messed it up. It happens. But
Happens to the best of us. But
yeah,
no, I'll